Hey guys, AlphaSeagull here. If you're familiar with my channel, you probably understand that two things are king in this world: tanking and multiplicative stacking. Palworld is no exception. Now, I've had a very unique problem with this game so far, which is the fact that unlike in previous games, pretty much all the content I want to do has already been done. There's this one YouTuber named the Pal Professor, and he does not take his name lightly. I kid you not, this man already made a thoroughly researched guide on practically every single thing related to Palworld you could possibly know. He even made spreadsheets! Every time I make a discovery and think to myself, oh, I wonder if this is gonna make my build get stronger, he already made a video talking about exactly that and figured out exactly how much stronger it is compared to all the different alternatives. I don't like being the kind of YouTuber that rehashes other people's content. If I ever make something that already exists, it's either because I've never seen it before, or because I have at least something worth contributing myself. This game's been in 1.0 for over a month and I haven't found anything usable. Until today. So I was having a conversation on Reddit about the Serenity passive. Someone was asking why it's so commonly used in a bunch of builds, and I was quick to point out how attacking faster functions as a multiplicative damage boost. Serenity gives a 30% cooldown reduction on your pal's active skills, so if you attack 30% more often, you deal 30% more damage. Makes sense, right? But then I thought, hold on now, is it even a 30% boost to begin with? It could have an inverse relationship and be like 43%. I should probably test it. What do I mean by this? Well, most reductions in games work by multiplying a value by a number less than 1. In this case, a 30% cooldown reduction would multiply the cooldown on your moves by 0.7. More often than not, when it's a buff we're talking about, this reduction has something called an inverse relationship with the thing we actually want. I covered this a lot in my Elden Ring defense video, but the reason a player would want damage resistance is to survive more hits as if they had more HP, also known as effective HP. So damage resistance and EHP have an inverse relationship with each other. Similarly, if cooldown reduction works this way, it would have an inverse relationship with how much we attack, which means we get a real DPS boost of 1 divided by 0.7, which is about 43%. If you've seen Technoblade's Great Potato War, he ran into literally the exact same situation with the same numbers.
I also say that my minions now produce 1.58 million potatoes, but they're actually producing 1.75 million, because the rabbit pet doesn't actually boost your minions by 30%. It boosts them by 43%. Why? I don't know, it's probably bugged.
Because his rabbit pet was reducing the cooldown between actions of his potato minions by 30%, increasing their actual output by 43%. Anyways, I grabbed a mount and ran a quick test. And I thought to myself, why not also test Impatient as well, since it's also a cooldown reduction? And if I'm lucky, they might stack additively. And you might be thinking, wait a minute, why would I want them to stack additively? Isn't multiplicative the best? Well, in normal cases, yes, but this is an inverse relationship we're talking about. Normally, stacking additively is bad because each individual percent matters less than the previous one. But when dealing with reductions, the opposite is true. Every percent matters more and more as you get closer to 100%. For example, 90% is only 10% higher than 80%, but is literally twice as good in terms of what it does for you. So sure enough, after the test, I got lucky. Not only was it handled as a reduction so we can get the inverse relationship, but it also stacked additively. Geyser Gush, which normally has a 30-second cooldown, went to 21 with Serenity and 16.5 with both Serenity and Impatient. What does this mean? Well, it means our real cooldown is 0.55 times what it originally was, taking us from the 43% damage buff to an 82% damage buff. That sounds like a bigger jump than it is, but when all is said and done, it's a 27% total multiplicative damage buff, assuming we were going to have Serenity already, which is a pretty massive buff for a passive, all things considered. For reference here, most of the attack buffs in the game are actually additive. Like, your average build for a pal will usually have Immortality for survivability, Diamond Body to not get interrupted from moves, which keeps it attacking, therefore boosts damage and survivability, then Serenity for reasons I've already described. Immortality gives 15% attack, and Serenity gives 10%, which means just on passives alone, we already have 25% attack, and it stacks additively. This means all possible attack passives will give slightly less of a DPS boost than advertised. But it gets worse. Most builds use Orzhok and or Celeste Noct for their really strong attack boosts, and these stack additively with everything else, including your passives. That's not a problem for our first 3 passives because we're not using them for attack anyway, but that's going to be a big problem for the 4th. If we have max Orzhok stacks, Celeste Noct, and these 3 passives, we're already working with a 255% total attack buff. This means Twin Edge Holy Blade, the strongest attack passive in the game, is only giving us a 14% total damage boost. This is why why a lot of optimized builds go with an elemental buff instead, giving upwards of 30% damage without any drawback. I did some more testing with a makeshift spreadsheet tool to figure out my base damage from a bunch of sample hits, and it turns out even this 30% buff stacks additively with all the other elemental buffs, including your bounty tokens. So with 2 otherwise identical Frostallion Nox, Lord of the Underworld was only giving me 24% more damage when I didn't have any accessories at all, and only 20% when I had the full dark type setup, which means Impatient literally gives you more DPS than any other passive in the game except for Serenity, but it gets even better. Not only does Impatient work with every type instead of just one, and let you attack more regularly, reducing the chance of your pal dying while its attacks are on cooldown, but attacking more often means you also apply more status, which increases the overall uptime of statuses that might be boosting your damage in some way, which means you get a further total damage boost just because of that, making Impatient better in every way than everything else you could possibly put in that 4th slot. The meta just might be solved here. If the battle is going to go on long enough for you to care about the pal's cooldown, you want Diamond Body, Immortality, Serenity, and Impatient. That's about it for this video. Be sure to like and subscribe, do all that algorithm crap.